In the second quarter, we are going to see a lot of areas of the world approaching but not quite reaching critical inflection points. So starting with Europe. On the surface, it looks like the Eurozone is doing all right. A mix of low oil prices, quantitative easing, and a cheaper euro should point toward recovery. But beware, this is an ephemeral shift. Investment, credit conditions, and export growth still remain critically weak, and the structural problems afflicting the Eurozone remain. Of course, a great deal of attention will be fixated on the Greek-German standoff this quarter, and Athens will be able to negotiate compromise after compromise with the Eurogroup to scrape by the next 3 months. But by June, Greece will have to negotiate a post-bailout agreement, and that's when a politically cornered Syriza will have to shift the political burden to the public through a referendum in deciding whether Greece can afford to stay in the Eurozone. At the same time, divisions within the German government will grow as tolerance for Greek debt relief approach their limit. In Russia, things also seem to be looking somewhat better going into the quarter. The ruble is regaining strength, capital flight is easing, but that will also be short-lived. Russia is still extremely vulnerable to low oil prices, and its energy leverage in Europe will continue to weaken. We think Russia will avoid any major military moves and that the Minsk agreement will hold, but conditions won't allow for a significant easing of sanctions this quarter. So as economic stress deepens in Russia, the power struggle in the Kremlin will be critical to watch as Putin struggles to keep the FSB in check. The United States will meanwhile continue building up its military presence and its relationships all along Russia's European frontier, with Romania, Poland, and Lithuania at the helm of a strategy to counterbalance Russia. Now, so far, Turkey has kept its distance from this US-led alliance in Europe, but we see Turkey being pushed from multiple directions to assert itself in the region. This will be a slow process, but a more visible one. You can already see this in play in the Middle East, where Saudi Arabia is assuming a leadership role for the Sunnis in managing the neighborhood. This is precisely what the US intended as it tries to shift the burden toward the regional powers. Even if the United States and Iran don't meet their end of June deadline for a nuclear deal, there will be a comprehensive agreement. This is moving forward. That's a reality that both Saudi Arabia and Turkey are preparing for. Only Turkey is going to take more time in assuming a credible leadership role in the region. Saudi Arabia's fight in Yemen will stagnate as it deals with cold feet in its coalition. The Saudi intent will be to split an alliance between the Houthis and forces loyal to former President Ali Abdullah Saleh and negotiate a compromise in the end that works to contain the crisis. But this will be a long fight. In China, we expect to see a lot more defaults in industries related to the housing sector, with a concentration in the resource belts of northern China. We won't see financial contagion in China, but the repercussions of the Chinese slowdown are going to become all the more visible. We also don't expect Beijing to resort to large-scale economic stimulus again to try and reverse the slowdown. Beijing will instead selectively target certain regions and industries with fiscal and financial tools to give them a boost, while Chinese President Xi Jinping tightens his grip through the anti-corruption probe. And who can forget Venezuela? The impact of low oil prices will really hit hard this quarter as Venezuela's imports reach dangerously low levels. As we anticipated in our annual forecast, the economic crisis and the probability of social unrest would likely drive Caracas toward a re-engagement with Washington. Venezuela will move forward in preparing for elections as Washington meanwhile tries to influence a power transition as part of a larger bid to fortify American influence in the Caribbean basin. There's a lot more in store for this quarter. Make sure to check out the forecast when it publishes on Monday, April 13th.